How do, and good evening. Gangster Paul One Punch Doyle released from prison. He was a gangster, drug dealer, robber and a Manchester United hooligan in a criminal career that spanned 5 decades. Right, I don't need that now. Pinned comment, I will put an article from Saturday night's Manchester Evening News talking about Paul. I'm going to tell you about Paul from my point of view. Being a Yorkshire lad in Strangeways, HMP Manchester, I knew nobody when I went in there. I would hear stories about the gangsters from both Salford and Manchester. I came across gang members, leaders of gangs, criminals who, to say the least, were very high profile. Paul Doyle, I'd heard about him. One Punch, he had a fearsome reputation as a fighter, but I didn't know who he was. So this lad, I'd seen him on G-Wing in Greens. When we talk about being in Greens, in prison, we are talking, I'm going to sneeze in a minute, my apologies. Excuse me. In Greens, we're talking about a wing cleaner. Used to wear green trousers, work boots and light blue t-shirts, so they were identifiable from other prisoners. I saw this lad, there was something about him when I saw him, made me curious. He looked tough, he looked like he could fight, and he had forearms like Popeye, long forearms, thick, gnarly hands too. Anyway, I didn't know who he was. That I saw this lad a few times about, and then I came onto the healthcare one morning. That's where I used to work. A little bit about that, because we've got a new subscribers. When I talk about the healthcare, I'm talking about the prison wing of Strangeways Prison. Very difficult, if you've never been to prison, either side of the door, to explain what it's like. There have been some good dramas in the past couple of years, you know, that create a bit of an atmosphere or whatever. But I've always said, if you've never been to prison, you honestly don't know what it's like. The healthcare was next level. The patients on there, majority were mentally unwell, had severe mental illness. They were challenging, violent at times, and very dangerous. The staff on there, majority of staff, female staff, nursing staff. 2 officers at any one time. We didn't have a senior officer, that's a wing manager, the next level up. We were nurse led, so my manager was a healthcare manager. No problem with that, it was all good. Prison governors, you know, you wouldn't see them for weeks on end. Nobody come on there. Staff who were assigned to work on the healthcare on overtime didn't like it on there. I saw some good staff come and go in my 7 years on there. There was one lad and one lass I'm thinking of in particular, both very good, both got empathy, you know, were both lovely people to work for, but it fried the brains. You know, you needed some resolve, patience, empathy. It was a very testing place to work. It could be very dangerous to work, and you know, your patients were tested every day. So what I'm telling you, it had its own atmosphere and its own smell, and that smell weren't pleasant. So yeah, one day I turned up and Paul Doyle was there in Greens. I unlocked him, another lad, Lloydie, good lad, and Jay. Jay was the first person I interviewed for the channel. I'm going to hook up soon and we'll see where he is, because that was 18 months ago. He was an IPP prisoner and he has struggled, to be honest, to settle. So Paul Doyle, and now had an idea who this person was. I'd heard the stories, heard about his reputation for fighting. Would I like to have come across him? Well, any of them in their world, in their criminal world, quite definitely not. Would I like to have fought any of them? Quite definitely not. But as 3 lads go, working in a difficult environment where you're quite often short staff, it was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure working with them. You see a different side to people, you know, away from the press. You read that article. That's not the guy I knew on there. Like I said, you know, criminal world, real world in prison. A lot of lasses worked on there, female staff, all nurses, and a lot of them were young. All three lads, super respectful, polite, gents really, on their prisoners, you know, same as patients, we call them by the first name or nicknames. The nursing staff all liked all three of them lads. You know, it was, like I say, at times very challenging work. No, that I can't even, it was really challenging. It was really challenging. And like I said, the lads, they were part of the team. They made my job easier. Again, if you can't understand that, you know, the environment and everything else. 2 prison officers on that unit all the time, along with the nurse managers, we made it work. The bonus for the lads, the 3 orderlies, Paul included, they wouldn't get no mither from other prisoners. You know, they were out all day. In the afternoon, we had a small gym. They could use the gym whenever they wanted. I told them that. However, every single day they would come and ask, you know, please may I use the gym. Super polite and respectful. They would do anything they wanted. If they were in the gym and there was an issue, a problem, and you needed them just to, you know, give you a hand or do something, they would do it. They were out all day on there. When I say an orderly, they did everything. They cleaned cells for people who weren't capable of cleaning them, 2 lots of showers to clean. They did surgery twice a day, kept that clean. That's where they served meals to the prisoners. They would keep the association room clean. They would do some painting, anything and everything. They were working all day. All 3 of them had very checkered pasts. You wouldn't have known. A big one for me, again, I've already mentioned this, is how they were to the staff and prisoners or patients on there. Yeah, you know, if they were locked down, I was on my own, you couldn't get anyone out, I'd have them lads out. They would stand at doors, talk to people who were, you know, not wired right. I said it a lot, you know what I mean. And they would spend hours talking to him. Lloydie, Paul, would you just have a word? Jay, would you just have a word? They'd stand there talking to someone who wasn't well. They would do anything. Yeah. It had its own odour, that place. Quite often you won't get any sleep. You know, if you lived on there, we had the worst alcohol detoxes. That'd be 3 days bouncing off walls, hallucinating, seeing spiders. The worst drug detoxes. There was something happening all the time, and they were super professional. Yeah, they were prisoners, and I'm telling you, they were super professional, super polite, well-mannered, respectful. I enjoyed it. We had a lot of quite deep conversations, the 4 of us. You know, I find their past interesting, scary to say the least, but interesting. You know, we had sort of, they weren't private conversations in as much as, you know, some of the stuff hasn't been in the press or whatever, but they were private between us. You know, they would ask me how I was, how the missus was, if I had the odd day off, which was very rare, whether I had a good day off and that. All round, dead easy. If you know, had addressed us all the same, all the staff on there, the nurses, the prison officers and the prisoners, those lads, you would have thought it was just a normal workplace. Yeah. So that's Paul Doyle. He's out now. I hope to meet up with him in the future. Lee, who I've interviewed with the channel, he's a good friend of his. It'd be nice to have a brew, and maybe he'll come on the channel. You know, tell us what it's really like. Maybe give some advice to people and the like. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there, guys. I'm off to college tomorrow to speak to some students. It's going to be quite a long day. It's a couple of hours each way, depending on traffic. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully I'll get a bit of footage to upload to the channel. Okay. Hope you've had the best weekend possible. Thanks for people's continued support. I'll see you there.